Bun's biggest and most controversial update just landed, Bun 1.4, the Rust rewrite. Now, I've made a video on the rewrite drama before, so let's just focus on what's new, because I genuinely like some of it, specifically the standard library stuff, because there's now a built-in headless browser, image library, pseudo-terminal, Markdown, Cron jobs, tarballs, and more, replacing 15 dependencies you might be using. Over the last few years, one of the biggest JavaScript complaints has been lack of a standard library, and Bun is fixing that, which is a pretty nice move in a world of weekly supply chain attacks. First up, we can uninstall Playwright and Puppeteer and use Bun Web View instead. With this code here, I can control a headless browser, find the subscribe button and click it, although I can't run this on your machine yet, so you're going to have to click subscribe for me. All of the input methods like click, type, press and scroll dispatch native browser events, so the page should think you're a real user. On Mac, this uses the system's WebKit, so Safari's engine, meaning there's nothing to install, but if you want a Chrome instance, you can set the backend option to Chrome, and this will use an installed Chrome or Chromium instance, which is what you do if you're using Windows or Linux. This can actually run a headless Chrome subprocess, or it can connect to an already running Chrome instance, so using this code here, I can drive the open version of Chrome on my Mac, all from Bun. On top of this, you can also use Evaluate to run JavaScript on the page and get the results back in native JavaScript values, and if there's no API for a feature that you want yet, you can drop down to the raw CDP commands. I can see this being pretty good for some lightweight browser automations. I don't think it fully replaces Playwright yet, it's not got a test runner or trace viewer, but for things like scraping or computer use scripts, it's not a bad option. Next up, let's uninstall Sharp and use Bun.Image instead. This is a full image library, letting us take a file, call .image on it, then chain operations like resizing it, rotating, flipping it, flopping it, changing the brightness, the sharpness, and converting it into a bunch of different image formats. It will also let you read metadata like width, height, and format without decoding the pixel data. Another cool option that I really like is the ability to create a placeholder image. This is a low-quality version that you can inline in HTML before the real image loads. Bun.Image is one of the features that I'm most excited about using because I've actually had issues with deployments and builds before that have been related to Sharp. Now if I use Bun, I don't have to think about it. I also don't have to think about marked anymore because we can now just use Bun.Markdown for parsing Markdown instead. This is just 3 APIs. Bun.Markdown.html renders Markdown to a HTML string. Bun.Markdown.render renders Markdown with custom callbacks for each element. This gives you the flexibility to render HTML with custom classes, ANSI terminal output, or any other string format. Bun.Markdown.react renders Markdown to React JSX, and this also lets you pass in any component you want for each element, so you can get some really nicely styled Markdown. There's also a bunch of options that you can toggle to control the Markdown features that you want. You can have things like GitHub formatted tables, auto links, heading IDs, and wiki links, although one warning they point out is that HTML output is not sanitized, so raw HTML, event header attributes, JavaScript, they all pass straight through, so if you're rendering Markdown that users wrote, that is still your problem to solve. Regardless, there is so much Markdown being generated these days that this seems like a pretty good addition to me. Moving on, you can now uninstall node-pty. Bun.terminal gives you a built-in pseudo-terminal, letting you drive bash vim or htop from JavaScript. If you've ever tried to ship a terminal inside of an Electron app, you know the pain. This is actually an addition to Bun.spawn. You pass it the terminal option and it spawns a subprocess with a pseudo-terminal attached. The subprocess sees a real terminal, which enables colored output, cursor movement, and interactive prompts. And once you have a terminal, you can write data to that terminal, resize the terminal, close the terminal, and lots more. You can also create your own terminal, which lets you reuse it across sub-processes. I'm starting to see a pattern in all of these features. They seem to be something that Claude Code would use, so I wish they'd open source that so we could see these features being used at scale. The next dependency we're uninstalling is node-cron, because we can now just use bun.cron. If you pass this a function, it will simply run on the event loop with no system cron involved, but if you pass this a script, it will register an OS-level cron job that actually uses cron tab on Linux, launchd on macOS, and the task scheduler on Windows. You can use standard cron syntax, including name days and helpers like daily, and it also supports parsing that cron syntax as well, which will return the next matching date in the system's local time zone. And talking of time zones, all jobs run in the local time by default, but it does have explicit options to change this, so you can be sure of when this is going to run. Next up in my schedule is to tell you to uninstall concurrently or npm run all, because Bun now has its own parallel option. Using this flag lets you run multiple package.json scripts concurrently, and the output is nicely prefixed with the script name that it's from. It also lets you use a glob match for the script names. It has a filter for what packages to run the command in within your workspace, and it also has an option to let the other scripts keep going if one of them errors out. It also doesn't just have to be concurrent either. You can also use sequential to run scripts one at a time with the same prefixed output and filtering. This is probably the feature that I see myself using the most. Our next uninstall is any tar archive library. Bun.archive is a fast native implementation of tar and gzip. Making one is just an object where the keys are the paths and the values are the contents, and the contents can be anything from a string, blob, uint8 array, or an array buffer. For compression, you can also use the compress option, set to gzip, and a level from 1 to 12. Obviously, you can then extract these with options like a glob pattern to only extract specific files, and a feature I really like is you can read an archive without extracting it. This code here can pull Lodash from the npm registry and read its package.json without a single file being extracted. So far, we've removed the need for about 7 npm packages, and there's still more to go, although these ones are smaller features so we can get through them quicker. First, Bun.serve can now serve static files, replacing the need for serve static, and this is great for that public folder of your website. Second, Bun added support for JSON 5 and XML, so you don't need their packages anymore. You can import, parse, and stringify both of the formats in Bun. The last three are helpers for the terminal. We have Bun.sliceANSI, Bun.wrapANSI, and Bun.stringWidth, which give you terminal column-aware slicing, wrapping, and measurement, replacing the need for packages like sliceANSI, CLI truncate, wrapANSI, and stringwidth. Overall, that's about 15 packages gone, and I've only covered about half of this release. The TLDR of most of this blog post is a lot of things got faster, CPU usage improved, startup got faster, and despite all of these features, the binary got 17% smaller. Oh, and it's written in Rust. One bonus feature worth mentioning is that Bun install got a global virtual store. If you enable isolated linker, packages get extracted once on your machine and symlinked to your node modules, rather than being copied into every single project separately. This should make it faster and also save space if you have loads of projects. So what do you think about Bun now? Do you use it? Will you use any of these features? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're there, subscribe, and as always, see you in the next one.